I will never forget the moment Thomas's confident smile shattered when he realized I wasn't as blind as he thought. His face drained of color faster than a storm rolling in, and the panic in his eyes was the sweetest confirmation of every suspicion that had kept me awake at night. I still remember the way the phone vibrated against my desk that Tuesday afternoon. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Sometimes I wonder how different my life would be if I hadn't picked up. "Mrs. Caldwell, I think you should know something about your husband and his assistant." My stomach dropped instantly. The voice was disguised, almost mechanical, but the words cut clear as glass. I remember gripping the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles turned white. A sharp, suffocating panic spread through my chest, each beat of my heart echoing like a thunderclap in my ears. The weight of dread pressed down on me so heavily I thought I might collapse right there at my desk. My mind spun with flashes of birthdays, anniversaries, quiet mornings together, each memory suddenly feeling tainted, brittle, and false. "Who is this?" I managed to ask. "Someone who thinks you deserve to know the truth. Check the Lakeview Hotel receipts, room 318, every Thursday for the past 4 months. Click. They hung up. I sat there frozen as the office continued, its normal buzz around me. 20 years of marriage to Thomas. 2 children we raised together. The house. We built the business. We grew from nothing into the most respected interior design firm in Portland. And just like that, with one phone call, everything felt like a carefully constructed lie. An icy numbness began crawling up my spine, but beneath it burned a white-hot fury I struggled to contain. A silent scream clawed at my throat, the pain of betrayal crashing through me in waves so fierce it almost knocked the breath from my lungs. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I opened my laptop and accessed our company credit card statements, and there they were, like perfect little bullets to my heart. Lakeview Hotel. 189.99 every Thursday afternoon for the past 16 weeks, all approved by Thomas, all during client meetings that mysteriously appeared on his calendar just 6 months after we hired Emily, his new executive assistant. Emily, with her perfect brunette hair and eager smile, 29 years old and ambitious. I had personally approved her hiring, impressed by her credentials and work ethic. I even invited her to our home for our annual company holiday party, where she had chatted politely with her husband, Adam. I remembered him clearly, tall, quiet, with kind eyes and a background in network security. They seemed happy that night. I didn't confront Thomas when he came home. I kissed him on the cheek like normal, asked about his day, and served the lemon chicken I'd made. I watched him lie to my face about a productive meeting with the Anderson account during the same hours he'd been in room 318. "You seem distracted," he said, reaching for my hand across our kitchen island, the same hand that had likely been touching her just hours before. I smiled, just thinking about that new position we need to fill in cybersecurity. "Mark's leaving next month, remember?" "Right," Thomas nodded, already losing interest in the mundane details of our IT department. "I'm sure HR will find someone." "Actually," I said, taking a sip of my wine, "I think I might handle this hire personally. We need someone who really understands system vulnerabilities." The double meaning of my words was lost on him. I excused myself early that night, claiming a headache, but instead of sleeping, I crafted a plan. Not a dramatic confrontation with tears and accusations. Those never solve anything. No, I needed something more elegant. Something that would expose the truth while giving me every advantage. The next morning, I called Adam Lewis, Emily's husband, and invited him to interview for our cybersecurity position. A position that would report directly to me. A position that would give him access to all company communications. A position that would place him just 3 doors down from his wife's desk where she spent each day at the beck and call of my husband. When Adam asked why I reached out to him specifically, I simply said, "Your reputation precedes you, and I believe in keeping talented people close." He had no idea just how close I planned to keep him. The day Adam started at our firm was the day I'd be documenting everything. Every late meeting Thomas scheduled with Emily, every long lunch that stretched into hours, the way they stepped slightly apart. Whenever someone walked into a room, the inside jokes that fell silent. When I approached, I played my role perfectly. The busy, distracted wife and company co-founder, too caught up in quarterly projections to notice the lingering glances between my husband and his assistant, too preoccupied to see how Emily would touch his arm when showing him something on her computer, too trusting to question why she needed to accompany him on that weekend conference in San Francisco. "You've lost weight," my sister commented during our monthly lunch. "New diet?" "Just stress," I replied, pushing my salad around. End of fiscal year. But deep down, I wondered if the real reason was the gnawing anxiety that kept me awake at night, the endless replay of moments I dismissed as harmless. I started questioning every decision I'd ever made, hiring Emily, expanding the business, even marrying Thomas in the first place. I hated myself for the creeping doubt, for feeling like I was somehow to blame for his betrayal. What I didn't tell her was that I hadn't slept through the night in weeks, that I'd started finding Emily's long brunette hairs on Thomas's suits, that I'd accidentally seen a text preview on his phone that simply read, "Miss you, already can't wait until Thur." 2 months into my plan, Adam was thriving in his new role. He'd already overhauled our outdated security protocols and integrated new monitoring systems that, with my authorization, included company email oversight. "Rachel," he said one afternoon, knocking on my office door, "I found some irregularities in the server access logs. Do you have a minute?" I invited him in and closed the door. His face was professional, but his eyes looked troubled. "Someone's been accessing confidential financial documents, transfer authorizations, specifically." He handed me a report. "The access point is from Emily's terminal, but outside normal business hours." I studied the report, heart pounding. "Have you mentioned this to anyone else?" "No. Protocol says I report security concerns directly to you first." I nodded. "Let's keep it that way for now. I'd like to understand what's happening before we sound any alarms." What Adam didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had already discovered more than deleted hotel receipts. 3 weeks earlier, I had found transfer authorizations for nearly $30,000 to an account I didn't recognize. Small enough amounts to fly under the radar, spaced out over months, all authorized by Thomas, all processed by Emily. They weren't just sleeping together, they were stealing from me, from our company, from our future. That night, Thomas came home later than usual. His excuses rolled off his tongue with practiced ease. Client dinner, contract negotiations, traffic. I watched him move around our kitchen, loosening his tie, pouring himself a scotch, completely unaware that I had spent the afternoon with our company's financial auditor. "How was your day?" he asked absently, scrolling through his phone. "Illuminating," I replied. "Yours?" "Exhausting. The Collins project is a nightmare." He rubbed his neck dramatically. "Emily stayed late to help organize the presentation materials for tomorrow." "That's nice of her," I said mildly. "She's certainly dedicated. We're lucky to have her." He agreed, not meeting my eyes. "I'm thinking of giving her a raise, actually. She's really gone above and beyond lately." "I bet she has," I thought. "Speaking of staff," he continued, "how's that new security guy working out? Was that really a necessary hire?" "Adam, he's excellent. Very thorough. Catches things others might miss." Thomas frowned slightly. "Just make sure he's focusing on external threats. I don't want him wasting time monitoring our own people. Creates a culture of distrust." I took a slow sip of my water. "You know what creates distrust, Thomas? Secrets." For a moment, just a flicker, I saw panic in his eyes, but he recovered quickly, smiling that same smile that had made me fall in love with him 20 years ago. "No secrets here, babe. Just tired." He kissed my forehead. "I'm heading up to shower." As I heard the water running upstairs, I opened my laptop and sent Adam a simple email. "We need to talk tomorrow, 7 a.m. I gave everything to this man, my youth, my loyalty, my trust. I helped build his dream into reality, and now he and Emily were planning to, what? Run away together with company money. Start over somewhere, laughing about how blind I'd been. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I was nothing to him, an obstacle, something to discard. A searing rage ignited deep inside me, hotter and more consuming than anything I'd ever felt. How could he stand beside me every day, sleep next to me every night, all while plotting to steal not just our life's work, but the future I had fought so hard to protect? The betrayal twisted in my chest like a blade, sharp and relentless, fueling a determination that burned away every last shred of the love I once had for him. Well, they were about to learn. I wouldn't be discarded quite so easily. They've been siphoning company funds for nearly 8 months, I explained to Adam the next morning in my office before anyone else had arrived. Small transfers, but they add up to over $120,000. I watched his face carefully as I laid out the evidence. Bank statements, email exchanges with coded language, the pattern of business trips that aligned perfectly with withdrawals from an account in Washington state. Adam sat rigidly in the chair across from me, his expression shifting from disbelief to anger to a cold, focused calm. "How long have you known about everything?" he finally asked. "The affair, about 3 months. The money, just recently." I hesitated. "I'm sorry to involve you in this, but I needed someone I could trust, someone with as much at stake as me." He laughed humorlessly. "And you trust me? You barely know me." "I know enough," I replied. "I know you're honest. I know you're good at your job, and I know you deserve better than being made a fool of." He stared at his hands for a long moment. "What's your plan?" I smiled for the first time in what felt like weeks. "I've already started it, but I need your help with the next phase." Over the next 2 weeks, Adam and I worked while maintaining perfect professional facades. We gathered evidence, documented patterns, and built our case. What Thomas and Emily didn't realize was that every email they deleted remained in our server backups. Every business expense created a paper trail. Every whispered conversation in what they thought was a private corner of the office was potentially visible on security footage that, as head of security, Adam had full access to. But we needed more than evidence of financial impropriety and an affair. We needed to understand their endgame. "They've booked one-way tickets to Barcelona," Adam reported one evening as we worked late in my office. "Next Friday, first class, using points from our joint credit card so it wouldn't show on statements." His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands trembled slightly. "The day after the Anderson contract payment is scheduled to arrive," I noted. $10 million. That would normally go straight to our operating account, which Emily recently gained authorization to access. Adam slid the paperwork across my desk. Authorization Thomas had signed off on without reading carefully, buried in a stack of routine documents I'd prepared. "So they divert the funds, board their flight, and disappear," I concluded, leaving us both humiliated and the company in chaos. Adam leaned back in his chair. "Not if we move first." My plan had originally been simple. Exposure. Confront them with evidence of the affair, fire Emily, divorce Thomas, and move on with my dignity intact. But this was different. This was calculated theft on a massive scale. This required a different approach. "The Anderson payment is the key," I said slowly. "If we can control where that money goes, we can catch them in the act." Adam finished, "But we'd need to let them think their plan is working." I nodded, an idea forming, which means we can't let them know that we know. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a spark of something like anticipation. Thomas had always underestimated me, treating the business side of our partnership as his domain, while assuming I was content with design and client relations. He'd forgotten who negotiated our first major contract, who secured our financing when the bank initially rejected us, who transformed a struggling 2-person firm into a 50-employee success story. He'd forgotten I was always the strategist. "Adam," I said, "how would you feel about a promotion, one that puts you directly in charge of certain financial security protocols?" The next day I called an executive team meeting, including Emily, who looked uncomfortable sitting across from Adam, but maintained her professional composure. Thomas seemed distracted, checking his watch repeatedly. "As you all know, the Anderson contract represents our largest project to date," I began. "With payment processing next week, I've decided to implement additional security measures." Thomas frowned. "Is that really necessary? We've never had issues before." "Better safe than sorry," I replied pleasantly, "which is why I'm putting Adam in charge of payment verification and routing. All incoming wire transfers will require dual authentication moving forward." I watched Emily's face carefully. The slight widening of her eyes, the quick glance at Thomas, the subtle shake of her head. "That seems excessive," Thomas argued. "It'll just complicate things unnecessarily." "Actually," Adam interjected smoothly, "it's becoming standard practice for transactions of this size. The system is quite simple." He launched into a technical explanation that I knew would make Thomas's eyes glaze over. By the end of the meeting, I had what I wanted: full team agreement to the new protocols, including Thomas's reluctant sign-off. What he and Emily didn't realize was that we had just closed their escape hatch. That night, I overheard Thomas on the phone in his study, his voice a harsh whisper. "We need another way. No, we can't wait. I don't care how you do it. Just fix it." I smiled to myself as I walked past his door without stopping. Little did he know I'd already anticipated their every possible move. The game was about to change. The day before the Anderson payment was due, I called in sick for the first time in 15 years. Thomas seemed relieved, kissing my forehead perfunctorily before hurrying off to the office. "Don't worry about anything," he assured me. "I'll handle the Anderson payment processing. You just rest." I waited 30 minutes after he left, then drove to the office, entering through the service entrance where Adam was waiting. Together, we went to the server room, the one place without surveillance cameras. "They've changed tactics," Adam reported. "Emily accessed the payment routing forms last night and created a duplicate set. They're planning to substitute them during the processing meeting today." I nodded, unsurprised, and the account number? Offshore, Cayman Islands. Untraceable once the money lands there. "Perfect," I said. Exactly what we expected. By 10 a.m., we were in position. I watched through Adam's security feed as Thomas gathered the executive team, conspicuously excluding Adam, who should have been there according to our new protocols. "Since Rachel is out today, I'll be overseeing the Anderson payment processing," Thomas announced confidently. "Emily has prepared all the necessary documentation." On cue, Emily distributed folders to everyone present. To anyone watching, it looked completely normal, the trusted executive assistant handling routine paperwork. Only Adam and I knew those folders contained fraudulent routing information. At 10:15, my phone rang. It was Anderson himself, right on schedule. "Rachel, glad I caught you. There seems to be some confusion with the payment details. We received 2 different sets of wire instructions this morning." "I'm so sorry about that, Robert," I replied, my voice deliberately concerned. "We've been implementing new security measures. The correct details were sent from our secure financial portal. Any other instructions should be disregarded." "That's what I thought," he chuckled. "Just wanted to confirm before we release the funds. Should be in your account within the hour." "Perfect. And Robert, thank you for your vigilance. Security is everything these days." At 10:30, Adam and I watched as Emily slipped into Thomas's office. Even without audio, their body language told the story. Her agitation, his confusion, both of them frantically checking their phones. At 10:45, I texted our CFO, who I'd brought into our confidence the previous day. At 10:50, the CFO stepped into Thomas's office, where Thomas and Emily were still huddled over a computer. "Great news," he announced loudly enough for the security feed to pick up. "The Anderson payment just cleared. $10 million, safe and sound, in our operating account." The look of shock on their faces was something I'll treasure forever. At 11, I walked through the main entrance of our office, dressed impeccably in my power suit, Adam beside me. The receptionist's eyes widened. "Rachel, I thought you were sick today." "I'm feeling much better," I replied, loud enough for my voice to carry. Amazing what a clear conscience can do. We walked directly to the conference room and sent out an all-staff emergency meeting notification. Within minutes, everyone had gathered, including a visibly shaken Thomas and Emily, who kept a careful distance from each other. "Thank you all for coming so quickly," I began, standing at the head of the table, Thomas's usual position. "I have some unfortunate news to share." I nodded to Adam, who distributed folders to everyone, mirroring Emily's actions from earlier. But these folders contain something very different. "Our company has been the target of a serious internal theft attempt," I continued, my voice steady. "Someone created fraudulent routing information for the Anderson payment, attempting to divert $10 million to an offshore account." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room. Thomas's face had gone pale. Fortunately, our new security protocols caught the attempt. "The real funds are safe in our company account." I paused. "What you're looking at now is evidence of a pattern of financial impropriety dating back 8 months. Smaller thefts, expense account fraud, and finally, this attempted major theft. Emily was staring at her folder, trembling. Thomas was trying to maintain composure, but his eyes darted frantically between me, the door, and Adam. "Rachel, this is absurd," Thomas finally sputtered. "These are obviously mistakes, accounting errors." "The second folder, please," I interrupted, nodding to Adam again. The next set of documents made someone audibly gasp. Email exchanges, hotel receipts, photos from security cameras of Thomas and Emily in compromising positions in the office after hours. In addition to the financial crimes, I continued calmly, there has been a significant breach of professional ethics. As you can see, those responsible were motivated by more than just money. Thomas stood up suddenly, his chair crashing backward. "This is a witch hunt? You can't possibly." "Sit down, Thomas," I said quietly. "The FBI Financial Crimes Unit is already on their way, as are representatives from the State Licensing Board." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then Emily burst into tears. "It was his idea," she sobbed, pointing at Thomas. "All of it. He said we'd never get caught, that Rachel never paid attention to the financial side." Thomas's face contorted with rage. "You lying. This was your plan from the beginning." As they turned on each other, I simply watched 20 years of marriage disintegrating before my eyes. Yet all I felt was an odd sense of relief. "Security will escort you both from the building," I said finally. "Your access has been revoked. Do not attempt to remove any items from your desks. The authorities will handle that." I turned to the rest of the stunned staff. "We will of course cooperate fully with the investigation. Our company will continue operations normally. I appreciate your understanding during this difficult time." As Adam and 2 security guards led Thomas and Emily away, I remained standing at the head of the table, my posture perfect despite the earthquake that had just rocked my world. Our CFO approached cautiously. "Rachel, I'm so sorry. None of us had any idea." I smiled slightly. "That was rather the point, wasn't it? But some things can't stay hidden forever." As the room cleared, Adam returned alone, closing the door behind him. "It's done," he said simply. "They're gone." I nodded, finally allowing myself to sink into a chair. "And the one-way tickets to Barcelona are canceled, along with their joint credit cards, cell phone plans, and hotel reservation." "For tonight?" I raised an eyebrow. "Hotel reservation?" Adam's smile was cold. "Apparently, they planned a celebration before their flight tomorrow at the Lakeview Hotel, room 318. The poetic justice of it almost made me laugh. 6 months later, I stood in the newly redesigned lobby of Caldwell Design Group, now officially renamed Harper Design and Interiors, reclaiming my maiden name, both personally and professionally. The scandal had made regional news for a few weeks. Thomas and Emily had both taken plea deals to avoid longer sentences. 5 years for him, 3 for her, plus restitution of all stolen funds. The $10 million Anderson project had been completed on time and under budget, cementing our reputation for reliability, even in crisis. "The new logo looks perfect," Adam commented, coming to stand beside me as we admired the sleek signage being installed. "Change was overdue," I replied, in more ways than one. We had developed an unusual friendship through our shared betrayal, not romantic, we were both too raw for that, but something built on mutual respect and understanding. He had stayed with the company, accepting my offer to head our new cybersecurity division. "Have you heard from him?" Adam asked quietly. I shook my head. "Not since the sentencing. My lawyer handles any necessary communication." I paused. "Emily? She writes sometimes. Apologies, mostly explanations." He shrugged. "I stopped reading them." I nodded. "Some wounds don't need constant reopening." My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter at college. "Saw the new company sign on your Instagram. Looks amazing, Mom. So proud of you." A rush of emotion swelled in my chest so suddenly it almost made me gasp. Tears stinging my eyes as I realized how far I had come. Their words were like a balm to the raw places in my heart. Proof that my children saw my strength rather than just the destruction their father had left behind. But as the warmth of their message faded, a shadow of doubt crept in. Would I ever feel truly whole again? Or would there always be a part of me waiting for the next betrayal? The next heartbreak? The thought lingered like a whisper in the back of my mind, a reminder of how fragile my newfound peace still felt. My children had been surprisingly resilient through it all. Initially shocked and angry, they'd eventually recognized their father's actions for what they were. Selfish betrayals of not just me, but our entire family. They'd stood by me, their respect for me seemingly growing as they watched me navigate the aftermath with dignity. The Anderson clients called. Adam mentioned as we walked back toward our offices. They want us to handle their new project in Seattle. Did they mention why they're staying with us despite everything? Adam smiled. They said they value working with someone who demonstrates integrity under pressure. Someone they can trust. Trust. Such a simple word for something so precious and fragile. That evening, as I locked up my office, I glanced at the framed photo I now kept on my desk. Not of Thomas and me in happier times, but of the first building I'd ever designed on my own before I met him. I'd forgotten how proud I'd been. Of that small medical clinic, how it had represented all my ambitions and capabilities. Somewhere along the way, I'd allowed my identity to become entangled with Thomas's, my achievements secondary to our shared success. The betrayal had been devastating, but in its aftermath, I'd rediscovered parts of myself I thought were lost. As I drove home to the new condo I'd bought, smaller than our family home, but with a stunning view of the harbor, I reflected on the strange journey of the past year. The anonymous phone call that had shattered my world had also, ironically, set me free. I no longer spent evenings waiting for someone who didn't truly want to come home to me. I no longer doubted my own perceptions when things didn't add up. I no longer compromised my worth for someone who couldn't see it. My phone rang through the car speakers, my sister calling for our now weekly dinner plans. Just leaving the office, I answered. I'll pick up the wine on my way. Perfect. And Rachel, that client from New York, called again, the one who wants you specifically for their project. You should say yes. I smiled as I signaled for the turn toward the wine shop. You know what? I think I will. The light turned green, and I accelerated forward. Some people might have emerged from betrayal bitter or broken, wary of ever trusting again. But I had discovered something unexpected in myself, a resilience I hadn't known I possessed, and a clarity that only comes from seeing through illusion to truth. The invisible witness I had been in my own life, overlooked, underestimated, dismissed, had finally stepped into the light. And in that light, I found I cast a much longer shadow than anyone, including myself, had ever realized. Dear friend, sometimes the storm we fear the most is the one that clears the path to who we were always meant to be. In the darkest hours of betrayal, remember that no one can steal your worth unless you give it away. The Stoics teach us that while we can't control others' actions, we can always choose our response, and through that choice, we reclaim our peace and our power. So stand firm in your truth, even when the world tries to shake you. Because you are stronger than every lie, braver than every heartbreak, and worth more than anyone's betrayal. You are not defined by what they did to you, but by how beautifully you rise after. If this story moved you or gave you strength, please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you stories that inspire and heal. Thank you for being here with us.